I'm a little bit of a disruptor these days in the soccer world because I just love it when kids just gather up and play, which seems to be extinct these days. And we partnered with a couple of other nonprofits to get 10 acres from the city of Chicago, which was vacant for 45 years. It was a brownfield in a rough neighborhood where not a lot of good stuff happened. So part of it was the city was saying, hey, here's our problems. Can you take this and make this better?
Right.
We've raised, it's now about a $40.5 million project. We've raised 38 and a half. All the things that are important to you in your life, or all the things you have to do, think about the number 100 or the number 1,000 or the number 1 million. All those zeros, your family is that first zero, your kids are that second zero, your spouse, your kids, your money, your cars, your job, you have this responsibility, you have this responsibility. All of that is just zero if the one, which is you.
I hate soccer.
Yeah. So, test. Can you hear me?
I got you. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
Great.
Turn the audio up just a little bit. I guess I was kind of like a chaser. So soccer coaches, we all want to the next level.
Yeah.
Play or coach at the next level.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to coach D1 soccer. I coached at University of Detroit.
Yeah.
It wasn't really for me.
Okay.
Then I want to coach in the DA and I want to coach at the ECNL level.
Yeah.
Went to Vardar. Wasn't really for me.
Yeah.
Always wanted to coach pro.
Yep.
I got this job at the Flash NWSL. Wasn't really for me. And then I had some self-awareness, and luckily through my mentors, they were very technical focused.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Buffalo, I realized how far behind the youth were, or was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to do my own training company.
Okay. And
word of mouth grew, and I've been there 10 years now. I have my own facility.
Wow.
It's small training space.
Yeah.
But
individuals or small groups?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 5-a-side is probably the best that we can do, or the most that we can do.
Yep.
And I share the space now with another guy that's like-minded, that also has his own training company, and I've stayed. But this weekend is making me miss Michigan.
Yeah, really.
Because it's more of a hotbed.
Yeah.
Whereas Buffalo is very isolated, and they
Yeah.
only have really one massive club that kind of, it's almost a monopoly.
Sure.
And they're buying up. Like, how is it in Chicago?
A lot of clubs, but we're starting to see some of the same stuff.
Just
where
one
I
club.
call them mega clubs.
Yeah.
Where Surf has a presence there, Rush has a presence there, and
Surf has taken over the world.
yeah,
They're in Ontario. They're in Niagara Falls. It's
Yeah.
like, why are you guys here? Why am I seeing a Wave logo?
Yeah, right. It's a volume play. If I'm reading the tea leaves,
Right.
they can just. And now I think the same ownership group just acquired Rush. So instead of 10,000, 20,000 players, now they're going to have 40,000, 50,000 players, maybe more. I don't know.
Maybe
That's just
more.
a guess, but it's and each one of those players paying $3,000 a year, $4,000 a year.
Take
it's a big
50
business.
per kid, give
Yeah.
it to the owner.
Uh-huh.
That's a nice living.
Yeah, it is.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Palatine, Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, northwest suburb of Chicago.
So you're a Region 2 guy.
Yep. And back in the day before, we had ODP. That was kind of our academy.
Yeah.
And today's ODP seems to be quite a bit different. And it's, again, I get it. Like, everybody has to make a living. But it seems like everything is just getting very expensive, and everyone's welcome as long as you can pay.
Yeah.
But ODP for me was a good experience. Made the regional team, and that kind of stuff. Made some good friends that way. But that was kind of how you got on the radar for college coaches back in the day.
Yeah.
So, and then your high school seasons as well were important. If you're lucky, you got a VHS tape, of the state championship game in high school that you could physically send to somebody. Different world, definitely.
Do you miss it? Do you miss that world?
I do. I tell you what I love is, and this is this is going to sound biased, but as I kind of mentioned to you, I'm a little bit of a disruptor these days in the soccer world, because I just love it when kids just gather up and play, which seems to be extinct these days. But if you remember, like, I just had this talk with somebody about how the youth soccer world's so much better now because of these academies, and I see that side because when I was coming up, my dad coached us until we were 10, 11, 12. He knew nothing about soccer.
Right.
You know, there was no internet back then, so he got a couple books from the bookstore and started coaching us on how to trap the ball and boot the ball.
Yeah.
You know? And then luckily got my first coach, who was a professional player, when I was about 11. But so the point today is, coaching education's better. You know, us now, my generation, a lot of us played soccer so we can help our own kids. So I see that. That's great. The challenge that I see is so many of these quote-unquote high-level players, they have 4 trainings, they're on the field 4 nights a week, and then they travel and they play one big game on the weekend. Otherwise, are they touching the ball? You know, and so the kind of conversation I had was, were we better back then, or are they better now? And I think technically, you know, knowledge of the game, they watch the game a ton more, right? They can watch the game on their phone.
We couldn't watch. We couldn't watch EPL.
Yep, exactly right. The first international soccer I ever saw was the '94 World Cup.
Same.
Because it was in person.
Same.
Right?
We were talking about it yesterday.
Yep. So these days, you know, my boy could tell you every player in the Premier League because he plays FIFA every night, or EAFC.
That's another thing,
you know?
yeah.
So he's playing that. He's watching all these games. He knows everybody. The downside is we played at recess. We played at lunch. Played every day after school. Mm-hmm. We played in the driveway while we were waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
You know, literally, I think we touched the ball every day.
And if it was just me, I would be in my backyard hitting off our brick fireplace back and forth. And they don't even make brick fireplaces barely anymore.
Exactly right. So I can't, you know, I don't want to put on my old man hat and say which one's better. I do think that the truly special players are not the ones that just go to practice and do what they're told for 5 years in the academy, and then hopefully they've gotten good grades and they get to go to Notre Dame or whatever it is. Like I think that the truly special players, it's inherent in them, and they're the ones who are up in the morning juggling a ball. And they're, you know, they want to play every day at recess, and they want to play, and they just love it. They have fun playing it. So it's a difference between being told what to do, and I hope I'm really good at soccer, and being absolutely in love with the game.
That's it. You nailed it, because I think everything is adult-led, and if it's adult-led, I don't know if the kids actually love it, or if they're just being told to do it, or being instructed to do it, or like, you're doing this. So we're completely supplemental. We just do technical training on the side of whatever they're doing with the club, and we can tell when, one, a kid is burnt out very easily. Two, we can find out if a kid wants to be there or not. Or if the parent is forcing them. And then sadly, with our older players, it becomes a therapy session because they're talking about the stresses of recruitment or from pressures from parents, or drama at their team, or drama with their coach, or how they're whatever. So it's crazy.
It's really young to have that much stress, right? I mean, I get the preparation piece, like we're, you know, Chicago Fire Academy, they're trying to create pro players, you know, so I get that there's some of that which is intentional. But 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, especially in today's world where, you know, I call them early growers. Like, I just coached a U19 boys team, and the 17, 18-year-olds are all my size. They're physically strong, gifted kids, but mentally and emotionally, they're more like 12, 13, 14, some of them. You know, and I don't know if that's a pandemic thing or a phone thing or a parenting thing. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But, you know, these kids to feel this much stress over, are they going to, if they're in an academy setup, and maybe it's not the perfect setup, no such thing as perfect, but they don't find out sometimes until Thursday, Friday, which team they're playing with on the weekend. Do they get dropped from the first team, or are they going with the second team to NAL or EL or whatever it is? And you're either going to Cleveland or you're going to Rockford, you know, and they don't know. And, you know, that's a lot to deal with. I mean, as a professional player, you know, you're expected to deal with that, and you're a grown man, right, or a grown woman. And so those stresses are part of the game. But when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, you know, that's a lot to process. And they start to just again, like to your point, either burn out or they're just not having any fun anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like we're forcing them to grow up quicker.
Yeah, I think so. And again, is it fun? And I'm sure some people would counter my question with, at the highest level, we're trying to get these players to be pros and get the most out of them. And I would counter that by saying you're only a kid once, and you can't tell me that Lamine Yamal doesn't have a blast playing.
Exactly.
Like every time you see that
his
kid,
passion
you
come
see him
out.
smiling and laughing, and he grew up in an academy setup, but you can't tell me that kid's not juggling a ball every day or playing with his buddies or soccer, tennis, or whatever. So I think the truth is somewhere in between, but if you take a group of 20 adults and try to get the best out of them, you can certainly put them in a pressure cooker, but even adults need to enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah.
Kids 10 times more than that. They will, I think they'll prosper, they'll thrive. We'll see more of these kids being more confident, creative, and comfortable on the ball if we are, moving at their pace instead of saying, do this, do that, do this faster, don't do that, stop doing that. So
what we were talking about yesterday with Jim Kilbazo is, did it all change when coaches went full-time, where they became full-time soccer coaches, and then the pay-to-play model really kind of caught wind because all these coaches realized I can make a full-time living off of this now, and rates skyrocket and skyrocket and skyrocket.
Yeah.
Is that the start?
Mate, is it a chicken and the egg thing? I mean, it could have been that coaches, probably directors of clubs, realized how much money they could make, started charging more, started doing more tournaments. We created more leagues, more events, and then the coaches had the opportunity to come in and be full-time coaches.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an industry that grew from possibility of charging people more and realizing that parents will pay, and God bless parents. There's some who are genuinely crazy, and I deal with every once in a while. But for the most part, being a parent of 4 kids, you're trying to do what's best for your kid. And it's hard to know. It's an education thing, right? It's hard to know as a parent if you're not maybe even a soccer person. I can't even tell you. I work in the game. I can't even tell you the difference between all of these leagues and what league is popping up, what league has gone away, what's a merger. So God help these parents who are just trying to do what's right for their kids. But how do you know in today's world?
Paul Marco, who is the head coach at Binghamton, he's an NSCAA staff or USC staff, and he said something that I've remembered forever, is that we're dealing with a parent's most prized possession.
Right.
And we have to take that into account when a lot of coaches complain a lot about parents, and parents are just, a lot of the parents don't know because they don't know the game. They didn't play the game. We're still, most of the players are still first-generation soccer players.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's, I have a little bit of an advantage, dealing with parents of my club in that they know that my kids also play for the club. And so I can always kind of switch hats with them and say, look, I promise, Susie didn't get moved to the B team from the A team because we don't like Susie.
Right.
I promise it's not because we don't want what's best for Susie.
Right.
It's the opposite. If Susie thrives and becomes the best Susie can be, that's great for us.
Right.
And great for Susie, great for parents. But my own daughter is going to play, with the second team this year, and at age 12. The best players at 12 are rarely the best players at 14, but rarely the best at 16. She may fall in love with something else and do art or do music or whatever, But, a lot of these parent conversations I have, 9 out of 10 will get it. once you actually talk to them and relate to them that, hey, this is why we're doing this,
Right.
I feel like you can't over communicate with parents these days. You just can't.
Right.
They're so involved, and they want what's best, and it's such an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Right, to your point, it's like that's their prized possession. It's such an emotional thing, and,
Right.
and if they feel at all as if their kid has been unjustly treated or slighted at all, then it's an emotional reaction.
Absolutely.
And so to partner with the parents, and I try to call everybody in our club members, not just participants
that.
or customers or anything, but like we're all members of this club.
Yeah,
Without
we're
all of us,
all in this together.
yeah, and it's a community club. And again, don't get me started, but I believe the future of soccer in America depends on community clubs doing a better job. And if all the community clubs get swallowed up by the mega clubs, that's the beginning of the end for me. But in our club, which is in Palatine, Illinois, there's about 2,500 to 3,000 families involved in this club. And my stance since taking over 3 years ago, when we had less than 200 competitive players, now we have 650 competitive players.
Whoa.
And 1,000 on the recreational side in each the fall and the spring. There's been a huge growth, and it's not because we're doing anything magic, but we just put the impetus on individual development in a team environment. So it's not win at all costs. If you want me to win the U11 State Cup in Illinois, I'll give it a good shot by picking all the biggest, fastest 10-year-olds and putting them on a team.
Yeah.
Those 10-year-olds aren't getting better. They might even be getting worse, but we could win the majority of our games by kicking it far and scoring goals. But if we put the focus is on individual development, and you try to put every player in the right environment for them to get better, and you work on their individual skills and their comfort and their creativity, then organically our teams have gotten stronger.
And that's something that I think is lost with a lot of coaches, is that when we are doing a drill, and we could have in our environment, we could have kids from 10 different clubs and 3 different age groups, right?
Yeah.
And if they struggle the first time going through, a passing sequence where they have to finish on a goal, and then when I try to correct them and say, okay, these are the 3 things that we need to focus on this next round. And then I go, and then they'll improve, and then I'll go, did you individually get better or worse? Did you individually get better or worse? Did you individually get better or worse? And I do that with every player, and then all of a sudden I go, guys, if we all individually improve a little bit, the entire team and the entire group improves.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of coaches do that.
Yeah, because wins and losses are so overly important.
If you're watching this, you're probably a soccer player, a soccer parent, or a soccer coach. For a player, are you making the right decisions of which club you're going to? Are you making the right decisions of which highlights to incorporate into your recruiting highlight reel? We can help you with that. And if you're a soccer parent, are you guys at the right club? How to approach a coach? What to email coaches? How to navigate the recruiting process? If you're a coach, are my sessions spot on? Are they age appropriate? How do I deal with parents? How do I deal with young kids that don't listen to me? We are having our confidence challenge. It is a 3-day or a 3-call one-on-one with me to help you navigate youth soccer. Join us for our August challenge. The link will be below this video.
In youth soccer, and for some of these clubs, they make more money the more championships they win. And we see it in Illinois, the northwest suburbs, which is a hotbed of soccer. So many clubs. But you'll see every time that our director of operations goes to these seeding meetings that some clubs try to go in the 6th division.
Yeah.
And last year they were in the 4th division or whatever, and they fight for it. They're like, well, I lost half my team, this is half a new team, but they want to win the championship.
Absolutely.
Their kids could probably develop better playing in the 3rd division, but they're going to win a championship in the 6th division and then put it all over social media, and then they attract more players.
Yeah.
So it's wins and losses, and some directors, even who are what I would call some of the good guys or good women, still suffer from that because their parents will leave and go elsewhere. Like this past season, we won half our games, lost half our games. In my view, I'm like, perfect. That's what we want. And they're like, yeah, but the team from over there won all their games. That team's better. We're going to go there.
Right.
And I'm like, it's at 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. It's not about winning as a team. It's about individual development.
Right.
And that's the hard education piece with parents. It's a long-term investment. If we can get a kid at 5 and have him or her until they're 15 or high school or whatever, I promise that kid is going to get better.
Yeah.
But we're seeing now at our U8 tryouts a kid who they're trying out for us. This is their 3rd club in 3 years.
Yep.
It's a 7-year-old, 8-year-old. And I'll look at that dad and say, I got to tell you, sir, this is not going to be perfect. Like, if you're looking for perfect, we're not. We're far from it.
Right.
I can tell you he's going to have fun, and he's going to play a lot, and he's going to touch the ball a lot.
Right.
And he's good enough to make this team, so I want to offer him a spot. But I don't want to have the same conversation in a year where, I'd like to give this spot to someone who's going to be here for a while because he's 7.
Right.
We want these players to develop. But parents are parents. Some of them, looking for perfection, and it just doesn't exist.
So with your background in fundraising and getting funding, how can you attack the pay-to-play model?
Yeah, well, I can tell you about Intentional Sports.
Okay.
So that's our nonprofit on the west side of Chicago, which is why I came back to Chicago at the end of 2020. One of my best friends had the opportunity to put a seed fund together. He's a financial guy. And then we partnered with a couple of other nonprofits to get 10 acres from the city of Chicago, which was vacant for 45 years. It was a brownfield in a rough neighborhood where not a lot of good stuff happened. So part of it was the city was saying, hey, here's our problems. Can you take this and make this better?
Right.
So we've raised, it's now about a $40.5 million project. We've raised 38.5 of that. Yes.
What?
Construction, environmental remediation, the land, but it's a big place. It's 152,000 square feet. Because I'm a soccer nerd and a psycho about it, I insisted upon our turf field is the only FIFA standard size field indoors in the city of Chicago, and it's in this neighborhood.
This is all indoor.
It is. Yeah, we have 2 mini pitches outside, and we're working on the last acre to put a turf 7v7 multi-use field out there.
Okay.
But one reason we want to make it as big and indoor as possible is because the parents in that community who actually are involved in their kids' lives,
right,
when they get home from school, they'll lock them in the apartment. Not physically, but they'll keep them home. They won't let them go out to the parks because the parks are dangerous.
Yeah.
And the kids who are wandering around on the streets, you get to be 11, 12 years old, the older gang members say, you join our gang, we're going to kill you. That's the life that these kids are looking ahead at because there's nothing going on there. I'm not kidding. As a soccer guy, you'll understand this. The first soccer clinic I did there, I asked the church nearby, hey, are there 40 kids that who'd like to do a soccer clinic I'm going to do? And 40 kids signed up like that. I showed up with a bag of balls. We were in a parking lot because we were in a construction.
Yeah.
I brought my 2 sons with me. Had a clinic plan of what I was going to do, teach these kids some technical stuff, and that's fun. And I was like, so who's ever played soccer before? And these are kids like 8 to 12 years old. One kid raised their hand.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, maybe I got to pivot to team handball or, kickball or something. I was like, who's ever played any other sport before? 4 more kids raised their hand. So out of 40 kids
Wow.
in one of the most populated, most advanced cities on earth, 35 kids had never played an organized sport. Whereas in Palatine, in Kalamazoo, in Detroit, there's 10 soccer clubs within 10 miles, So this is just, on the west side of Chicago. It's the same on the south side of Chicago. It's the same. And I've had people from my network ping me from Philadelphia, D.C., Indianapolis, and just say, hey, could you do that here? Or can you, my answer is always the same. It doesn't behoove me to franchise a nonprofit. It just takes more years off my life. But I will certainly help somebody to, if there's boots on the ground, and a good friend of mine, Northwestern soccer guy, is thinking about it in Indianapolis, that could be the next place.
Okay.
But I just say, hey, you just got to find some land that nobody else wants in one of these urban centers. And it doesn't have to be a $40 million project. If you just put up a big metal box or, pre-engineered metal building, you can 10 million, 15 million, and you raise it. Sounds like a ton. It is a ton of money, but you get 10 people who believe in that.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you at Intentional Sports, there's now 2,500 kids a week coming through that place.
Oh my gosh.
Intentional Soccer Club, baseball, partnered with Jason Hayward, who won the World Series with the Cubs. Jason's an awesome guy. He's a good friend. So we have the Jason Hayward Baseball Academy, and then our basketball club. Those are our three kind of pillar sports. But we also have all kinds of other programs like esports and volleyball and softball.
Brilliant.
Chess. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you name it. Whatever will get kids to come and spend time and then want to be there the next day and the next day. That's why we built this place. It literally looks world class. If you walk in, you're like, wow, this is incredible. This is for kids. And that's why we did it that way, so the kids want to come back the next day and the next day and the next day. They feel like Alyssa Nair when they come in and play soccer, these little girls or whatever. So and we have a lot of, because of that, I've just kind of pinged my network of having Alyssa there, having Kellen Acosta come over, having Andrew Gutman come over, Greg Berhalter, Oguchi Onyewu, DeMarcus Beasley, some guys who have come over and talked to kids or just be a presence there, work out there in the wintertime. We had a bunch of MLB guys there. Jason brought the Dodgers when he was with the Dodgers, brought the Padres last year when they came to play the Cubs, and these little baseball kids see Fernando Tatis Jr. walk in and they just lose their minds. He's like a superstar, and he's there to give high five to these kids, take pictures with them, and just say, hey, good job. And some of these kids are paying nothing. Some of these kids are paying a little bit. But long answer to your question is, this model is pretty unique because we fundraised a ton, we got some grants, we got new market tax credits to build this big place. Now we have an operational budget of, call it $3 million a year, give or take. We can make about half that, maybe more of that, in revenue from rentals, from hosting leagues, from hosting tournaments.
Smart.
So we protect every day after school from 3 to 7 for all of our free or low-cost programs. And because that's the biggest problem in these urban centers is these kids get out of school and they just go wander around.
Yeah.
And our kids now come here and they have fallen in love with playing soccer. And the cool thing is these little soccer teams, you look at them and they look every way that a human can look. We're right in the corner of 4 communities, which is called Austin, Belmont Cragen, Hermosa, and Humboldt Park. Austin is 98% Black, African American. Hermosa is 98% brown, Mexican American, Central American. Those communities historically have not spent a lot of time together, if any. Now they're playing on the same basketball team, on the same soccer team. And we have the spectators lounge upstairs, and parents go up there and they're in community together. Maybe they can't speak the same language,
That's great.
but they're in the same room together, cheering for their kids on the same
Community.
team. And it's just like, okay, how can we change one kid's life, and then all of a sudden we're changing hopefully 1,000 kids or 2,500 kids, and then the city of Chicago, where these teenagers, everybody sees the bad press about Chicago. They have these teen takeovers where they go into the River North neighborhood, 300 kids, all of a sudden, they used to be just fighting, now they're shooting at each other. And, the stats in Chicago are crazy about the gun violence, and the number one for mass shootings, number one for school-age kids involved in those shootings. If you ask me, and I spent some time in law enforcement, so I have a little bit of a working knowledge of this, there's never going to be enough cops. There's never going to be enough jails. That's not how you're going to solve this problem in these urban centers. These kids need something positive to do from the time they're 4 and 5, where I believe, and I've been all over the world, I believe 4 and 5-year-old kids are the same all over planet Earth. Just goofy little humans, just want to run around, fall down, Well, no matter what they look like, what language they speak, they're just goofy little 4 or 5-year-olds. You fast forward 10 years, in Palatine, in Novi, those kids who are playing soccer, whatever, they're thinking about, should I play D3?
Exactly.
They've had...
It's a different world.
Yeah. On the west side of Chicago and housing projects of Phoenix, where I worked as a cop, those kids, when they're 15, 16, they've been doing nothing positive the last 10 years because they didn't have the opportunities.
Right.
Now they're in gangs, they've dropped out of school, or they're in jail.
It's like, is this my life?
Right. So can we do a better job of, a soccer ball has opened up all the doors in my life, and taken me all over the world. I'm not saying that these kids need to be college players or professional players, far from it, but can they learn that, no matter what kids look like, they can be my friends? Can they learn how to win? Can they learn how to lose? Can they learn that it's okay to bump into somebody? Instead of, if you step on my Jordans, I'm going to fight you, and then your cousin's going to shoot me, and my cousin's going to shoot him. That's how these things are going these days. But instead, if you you and I are 5-year-old, 8-year-old kids. We run into each other on a soccer field and we start laughing and I help you up. That's a completely different thing of conflict resolution.
Right.
And the lessons we all take for granted because we grew up in the game. I feel like kids in these cities are not getting those opportunities to learn. So.
Are you talking about this here? You're not.
I talked yesterday about my talk is called Be Harder to Kill, and it's for coaches to take better care of themselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Man.
And so I'm passionate about that. As a lifelong fitness nerd, and then been in law enforcement, been in entertainment, I just see when you come to a soccer coaches event, and this joke falls flat at a soccer coaches convention, but the hotel bar is packed and the hotel gym is empty. And I say that lightly, but truly, you see a lot of coaches burning out now, physically, mentally, emotionally. You think about it, they're always helping kids, run faster or get better with the ball or eat better or hydrate, but we're not taking care of ourselves.
No,
we're not
we're
taking
not.
our own advice. So.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir because, I mean, it's the lifestyle. We're driving from game to game, and we don't do a good job of nutrition at all. Drinking is a big issue.
Sure.
Like last night.
I mean, and part of that comes with the stress of the job and releasing.
Yes.
And that's, I get it. We have maybe 2 hours of free time at the end of a long day.
Yeah.
Where you've had tons of conversations, you've expended all this energy, and part of that is you just want to relax and you need to release.
Right.
And what's quick and easy is having a few drinks and going to sleep.
How can you teach coaches, or how can you teach coaches to take care of themselves? Because they're, if they have a family, they're trying to take care of their family and be stressed out all the time about this weekend's games and everything.
Yep. I have a lot of rules and theories. I'm almost 50 and I've been doing fitness and soccer forever and ever and ever. So I've just learned the hard way all these little lessons of basic truths. One is, if you think about all the things that are important to you in your life or all the things you have to do, think about, the number 100 or the number 1,000 or the number 1 million. All those zeros are, your family's that first zero, your kids are that second zero, your spouse, your kids, your money, your cars, your job, you have this responsibility, you have this responsibility. All of that is just zero if the one, which is you, goes away, is not taken care of. If you're unhealthy, if you feel terrible, and you can't do any of that stuff, all of that stuff goes away if you're not taking care of one. So you have to prioritize, and it's not selfish, it's not anything, but you have to prioritize taking care of yourself. And that's not just physically, yes, some exercise every day, whatever that is, In my talk, I talk about, people ask me all the time, what's the best type of workout? And I put it right back on them. I say, what would you actually do? Do you like to swim? Do you like to bike? Do you like to walk? Go walk around the block, whatever it is. If you like lifting weights, great, but CrossFit's not for everybody, I can tell you 900 out of 1,000 people end up quitting because it's not for them. But maybe they like to ride the elliptical for 20 minutes. Can you fit something in every day, So that's the physical side, the nutrition side, the intake side. The mental, emotional stuff is just as important, where we have to unplug, we have to, take care of ourselves and protect ourselves and not just think that we can work these 18-hour days, because even if you're at home, if you're looking at these stupid things and you're answering emails, you're still on and you're still feeling the stress of getting things done.
Absolutely.
It could be 18, 20 hours a day for some of these guys.
I saw a coach put it this way. We spend our entire lives being coached and training for something. Mm-hmm. And then when we stop playing, then we're not being coached. We're not necessarily training for something.
Interesting.
And if you don't have that mentality of where you have to get a sweat on, or my day is just ruined. If you don't have that, that's what happens to a lot of these coaches that are not healthy. Myself included.
And because it takes so much energy, like what you do, it takes so much energy to do an hour session. You're giving yourself to those kids. And then by the time you're done, you're like, oh, I'm exhausted.
And it's like the last thing I want to do is go work out. Mm-hmm. And I have always been a workout at night guy. That's ruined my life. Because because then I go and coach for 3 to 5 hours.
Yep.
I'm not working out at night anymore.
Yep.
So then I'm not a early bird because my day mostly doesn't start till like 3 to 8 p.m.
Right.
So
kind of nocturnal.
So a little bit.
Yeah.
I wake up around like 9, sometimes 8, so depending on the week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 10.
Yep.
It just depends. And Yep.
I say in my talk that I learned that early on in college. I was in the weight room early, and there was a big football guy in there that I loved. Ended up being a friend of mine, but he was a big defensive tackle, scary-looking guy, real deep voice. And he looked at me and said I looked tired, and I said, "Yeah, I'm just not a morning person." And he just boomed, "Ain't none of us a morning person, dog." And it hit me that we're not really designed to be morning people or night people. But if we can, shut it down just a little bit earlier at night, get up an hour earlier, and for me, if it's getting up in the 4s or getting up at the 5s, because that hour in the morning becomes your hour. Nobody else is up, and you don't look at this thing, and no one's calling you or whatever. You can do whatever you want with that hour, whether it's having a coffee, reading the paper. I mean, that's good for you too, or going for a walk, or going to the gym, or whatever it is. That's your hour. That's your time. So you remember Kiwan's voice next time. Hey, none of us morning person.
Yeah, I will remember that.
Yeah.
Going back to fundraising.
Yep.
When you're in that room,
Yep.
how do you give them the number of or do you just have the conversation like this?
Yep.
And then they just basically say the number that they're willing to give?
No, it is a very interesting dance of fundraising. With some people, it's a quick yes. Some people, it's a quick no. The best thing you hope for is a yes. The second best thing you can get is a quick no, because for a lot of folks,
don't waste my time.
It's a maybe, and I've had maybes for a year and a half. Where every couple weeks I shoot another email and say, hey, just keeping this conversation warm, or hey, just circling back, hey, I was at a soccer convention, I saw your, hey, blah, blah, blah. How many different ways can I keep the conversation going? It could be the 10th email a year later that is the right timing. And amazing, not saying anything bad about Joe Smith, who for a year didn't respond to my email, and then Joe Smith, in the end, exited his tech company or sold this or whatever. It's a private equity guy. All of a sudden, he's got $500K to donate to Intentional Sports. If I hadn't stayed on top of that, then he might give that to someone else, or not give it all. So that's the long maybe. It's sales, in some way everything is sales, and you just got to be a good storyteller. And I need to, if I'm having lunch with you, or if I'm telling you the Intentional Sports story or whatever it is, trying to build a facility for Palatine Celtic, which is a nonprofit club, I need to be able to storytell that to our members or the community, or to Weber Grill that's based in Palatine, and just say, this is why this matters. This is why you should care. This is why Weber Grill should be all over this thing, because it's the positive PR points you're going to get. We do a ton of activations with this many impressions on social media, but we have 2,000 kids who are coming through here who this makes a difference for, and so we're on the news, or blah blah blah. Why does it matter, and why should you care? That's the storytelling.
I asked that question because we have a guy in Buffalo. He is an assistant coach at Buff State.
Okay.
And he started something similar. He found a plot of land, and he put some goals up, and it's just grass, dirt, and he'll have 20 kids show up out of nowhere. He'll start with 3 kids, and then all the kids from the neighborhood will come. And then he gets to use Buff State's turf field on Friday nights.
Great.
But he's starting that process of, how do I fundraise? How do we get our message out there? And it's really talking to people.
And I tell you where I'm going. I'll give you the very quick version of this. I was an actor, still am an actor, but I lived in LA 5 years full time. And I've written down, a few scripts, and finally wrote down this one that's been in my head for years and years, that we're trying to film in October in Chicago. And it is a family soccer film called Chicago Nobodies, and it kind of mirrors the intentional sports story. It's two really talented 13-year-old boys, Eric and Miguel, try out for the big mega club. They're good enough, but they can't afford to play. And it's a little bit of a disruptor. The mega club's called Premier Elite Select Premier, and the coach says, my accent should tell you everything you need to know about my expertise in football. So it's we're and I have so many British friends. That sounds
phenomenal.
It's going to be a funny film. So my whole life is fundraising. We're in the financing phase and almost there. It's a low budget, it's a $3 million movie, but we have we're talking to some great talent, recognizable talent who love the story, want to be in there. It's filmed all in Chicago. For 2 of the weeks, we can film at Intentional Sports, which is really great for intentional because we'll get more eyeballs to intentional, and what is that?
Yeah.
But the movie makes the same point that intentional sports makes. And in the end, it's the community that realizes that these kids are so much better off if they're playing something than if they're not playing something. And so, can the taco shop give $1,000? Can the car dealership give $10,000? Can the gas station give $5,000? Eventually, you have $15,000 for this team. Can kids pay $50 for the season? Can they pay $500 for the year? Some parents can. That's a great thing about soccer is, in every one of these teams, we have some parent who could pay $100,000.
Exactly.
And we have some parents who could pay nothing.
Right.
But when you're upfront and transparent about it, that, hey, for what this team wants to do this year, it's going to cost about $10,000 or $15,000. And then you have these conversations with people in the community, like on the west side of Chicago, in this movie. At the end, the banners are up for those companies that sponsor this group, and they say, when these kids win, our community wins.
Right.
Because it's less kids out on the street getting in trouble, making bad decisions. Instead, these kids are learning something great, which is teamwork and all the rest of it that we talked about. Right. So I think there's a way to get there that is not 100% profit driven, where some of these clubs that are owned by whoever, kids are paying, I know for a fact, at a U14 2014 level, so that is like U12, kids are paying $4,000, and this is not an academy setup. They're paying $4,000, and then the uniform package is $400, and then there's a mandatory preseason camp, which is $400. And so you're looking at $5,000 for, what are those kids? 11 years old. Yeah. And so maybe they have financial aid and they can, take $1,000 off. But it's still for these parents who, God bless these parents, they want what's best for their kids, and they think that this is the best club and this is what's going to help their kid the most. Yeah. And so they'll find that money somehow.
Yeah, they'll go into debt for it.
Yeah, right. So it's I think that there's a better model where, like I say about Palatine Celtic, out of 1,000 kids in Palatine, we should be able to provide a space for 990 of those kids. From a kid who's never kicked a ball before in our tiny little recreational program to this last year, my U19 team, a handful of those kids are going to play in college. They're pretty good players, They're not Christian Pulisic, and they know that. But for the 10 who could be, I'll call Gary Lewis at the Fire or whoever it is and say, you got to look at this kid. Or, a college coach and say, you have to look at this girl, this player. Here's her video. But if community clubs can just invest, and the cool thing is that now we've had some really good coaches come to our club who have been at other big clubs, with big education and very experienced guys, but they say, hey, we're attracted to what you guys are doing there. Because it's about the community, you're trying to do it right, or they want to coach their own kids, which is awesome. Some people are anti that. I love it because I know that coach is going to do a great job if that kid is on that team. Right. I won't hire, a guy who's a psycho about it, of course. But so if more people our age, my age, I'm older, who grew up in the game now are coaching because their kids are in the game. Guess what? That's what's been going on in Europe for generations. Exactly. South America for generations.
Yeah, that's why we're so far behind.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.
Yeah, one of the reasons. But
I always wondered why all clubs are full of members. I love that. I'm stealing that. that own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them own very successful businesses and multiple businesses.
Yeah.
How would a club go to some of those business owners
Yeah.
and ask, hey, our goal is to make this a free academy?
Yeah.
How would that conversation work?
You know, it's as simple as if the club's set up as a nonprofit 501c3,
Okay.
then those companies or those business owners can make a donation every year to the club. Call it 10 grand. Some of them can give 50 grand, and it's a tax write-off. They get tax benefits for that.
Right.
But then you have this scholarship fund or the foundation fund,
Right.
which that money can be used to pay the club for every kid who isn't able to play.
Right.
And you just have to be smart about your budget. If your budget is $2 million a year, don't charge so that you bring in $4 million a year.
Exactly.
You know, and there's nothing against nonprofits making a profit and keeping that in the account to give more opportunities to buy equipment or take kids on a trip or whatever.
Right.
But if you're doing that just to pay this guy 300 grand or whatever, then I think you're veering away from the community nonprofit soccer model.
Uh-huh.
You know, if that guy wants to make a ton of money, he should probably be somewhere else. God bless him. But these community clubs, if they're set up right, then you're exactly spot on with the car dealership owner or the restaurant owner or the corporation owner or whatever. Rather than give 40 grand to taxes to the government at the end of the year, you plan to give 40 grand to the club every year. So,
but then how we also have to manage it so it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that you're 100% going to play every minute.
Yep.
Or your daughter's not going to play every minute.
Yep, yep.
And then you just deal with that.
yeah.
But
yeah, right.
man, or it could be a private
Yeah.
donation, but
Yeah.
you probably got to go.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry to keep you.
No. I feel like we could talk all day.
Absolutely, we could. But hey, 45 minutes. I appreciate your time. I know you're
it's a
headed back to
pleasure.
Chicago.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a pleasure. If
awesome.
If your listeners want to learn more about intentional sports, intentionalsports.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Are you guys on Instagram?
We are. You
Okay.
can find us on Intentional Sports. You can find me at Andy What's Next and all the projects that I have going on. I'd love to interact with anybody, but love to hear from people who are trying to do something good wherever they live. If I can help with, this is the fifth facility that I have designed and helped put up. So it's a passion of mine to help people, build things, create things, which will ultimately help kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Awesome.
I hate soccer.